Hello fellow humans, and today I'm going to rate every single tier 9 tank in World of Tanks Blitz. Now if you disagree with any of these ratings, then put it in the comments so I can then swiftly ignore you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Anyway, I would say the tier 92 E1 is a solid 6 out of 10. It's very annoying. It doesn't have quite a lot of DPM, however it does have the alpha damage, does have 10 degrees of gun depression, very good mobility, and solid heat rounds. Now this vehicle, a lot of players that play this vehicle are about as competent as a Lizard. That's not great, however the tank itself is perfectly fine, so I would say a 6 out of 10 for this one as well. The M48 pattern, it could definitely do better, 3000 DPM. This is where the penetration issue comes in. So 6 out of 10 again. It could have 7, 8, even 9 if it were to have turret armor and penetration. The M103 is very annoying to research because it go all the way up here to this gun, and this gun is not good. So for that, it gets a minus point. The E5 currently isn't really that great. The T-34 is an amazing vehicle, however the M103 just sits in here and does about nothing, so 5 out of 10. The M5 Yaw is an 8.5 out of 10 in my opinion. Now they have very, very strong armor on this vehicle, basically an impenetrable turret besides the cupola on top, and also a very small and slick shape, which means it's going to be pretty hard to actually hit this vehicle. That combined with a autoloader that can deliver 900 damage and 8 degrees of gun depression, that is quite a damn good vehicle, and also definitely good to get. Now the T95 is a tank that I hate, so any rating I would give it would be severely biased. 2. Now the T30 is a very strong tier 9 heavy tank, and yes, it is a heavy tank. Anyone that camps at the back with this, it is not a tank destroyer, it is a heavy tank. Now, very good heavy tank, 640 alpha damage, 2600 DPM, 10 degrees of gun depression, impenetrable turret, and enough-ish mobility. It'll do its job, it's a good tank, it'll get a good rating, 7.5 out of 10. Then we go to the Germans in the Leopard PTA, which is somewhat a disappointing vehicle given what the Leopard 1 is. The main downside of this tank is the gun depression, that is only 6 degrees. It just doesn't really work as well as the Leopard does. You do have very good penetration here, basically a tier 10 gun, so that's amazing. However, with a complete lack of gun depression, I don't know, 6 out of 10. Doesn't even have armor. E50, every time I click here I have to see this shit. And the E50 is a tank that is fine enough. Unfortunately, it does suffer from not that great penetration, 220 and 270. However, good DPM, good ramming, good fun. 7 out of 10, because why the hell not? It does have the armor, it's very easy to play, it'll do. E75, I would put this as a 8 out of 10, very simply because it is a great tank to begin your game with. It's not the most fun tank, but it is very easy to play. It's very good to run. Doesn't have quite the DPM, but it is a tank that is definitely going to work quite well. Now we get to your mama, otherwise also known as the Mäuschen. No. Now the VKB is unfortunately on its way to the VK72, which is only relevant if you're sitting right in front of it. Otherwise than that, it's completely useless. And the VK doesn't quite have that much downsides, obviously because you can't pin it straight in the side, so this is an absolute side-scraping monster. However, that is very rarely useful, and it's quite a long boy. So, 6 out of 10. The KPZ-70 is a premium tank, so will have to suffer a bit more. You have a very solid turret, but you have Duke Apollos that can be penned. Front armor is no. And then a gun with 560 alpha damage, very good penetration. Only 6 degrees of gun depression, unfortunately, and okay mobility. Because it is a premium tank, it gets a 5. If it were not, it would get a 7. The Actig is a tank that unloads even faster than you virgin. 4,000 DPM on this vehicle, excellent penetration, 460 alpha damage. You do have 8 degrees of gun depression instantly. The problem is, the armor's not great, the mobility is not great, it doesn't have a turret. However, the gun is absolutely bonkers, so 6 out of 10. The Waffle doesn't have quite the bonkers DPM, 600 alpha damage, however, it is very stealthy, it is very fun to play. On the way to the grill, it's definitely better than the grill by a lot in its current way, so 7.5. And we're rushing through the list with the Object 84. It's a light tank. It's not quite a good light tank, to be honest. There are way better ones. A T92 works better, and we'll see later that the others also work better. So, 4. The T54 is a tank that used to be an absolute dominant monster. However, it is no more. And unfortunately, it also leads now to 2 vehicles that aren't really that desirable. The tank itself, I would put it at a 5.5. However, there is no really point to get it, because why would you get the 62A? And if you go get the 140 now, yeah, I feel bad for you. The Kennedy one gets a 9 out of 10. It is a premium tank, unfortunately, so we'll have to deduct 2 points for that. But the tank itself is definitely a 9. It's an amazing vehicle. You have a great autoloader, 350 alpha damage. It's like a Russian version of the Yo, and no, it doesn't fall apart. yet. The IS-8, however, very much does. It has a very strong gun, one that is accurate, surprisingly. So the gun's fine. The rest of it is absolutely not. This is very much a 3 out of 10, and that's the big problem about the IS-7 line, is that the IS-7 is a very solid vehicle, but the IS-3 and the IS-8 are a bit shit. The ST-1 is a 1. No, it's not. It's 7, I would say, out of 10, obviously. Very strong gun here. It's basically, again, a tier 10 gun. So it just works. Problem is, if you have to play it stock, congratulations, you will lose your sanity. So overall, I would give this thing a 7.5, maybe, at best. However, be wary of playing this thing stock. It will be extremely painful. The Object 704 is a tank destroyer, and that's all the rating from me. I'm not a fan of them. However, it is still a very good way to get into tank destroyers because there is nothing screaming tank destroyer like the Object 705 does. And in general, this line is pretty much the first tank destroyer line that I would recommend. So there's that. Obviously, the ISU is better tier for tier. So I would give this thing a 4. It is very much the ugly duckling of this line. Now we get to a T-54 that lost its head, which is very common for Russian tanks. The gun gets a 10 out of 10. The tank gets a 2. The Vickers CR is a 9 out of 10. Why is that? You have a tier 10 gun and very good accuracy, 10 degrees of gun depression, very good mobility. You even have armor on this vehicle. This thing can do absolutely everything. It even has higher HE penetration. This is the vehicle that you want to have. If you truly want to seal club in tier 9, this is the tank to have. The Centurion Mark 7.1, it's solid, but it's large. It does have the HESH, which is amazing. Obviously, don't play it with the not HESH gun. So, you have a very solid base here. 10 degrees of gun depression, very good mobility. It's massive, though. You don't have any hull armor. That's not that great. So, for the HESH factor, it could be an 8, but in terms of practical usability, is more of a 6. Now, the Conqueror is another tank that suffers from too many damn modules. Now, it got buffed a bit, but that didn't really change too much. It has its HESH rounds up to 170mm. However, the armor is... what's armor? So, overall, only 7 degrees of gun depression as well. Not great mobility. Very much, for me, a 5 out of 10. Obviously, if you disagree with any of these ratings, put it in the comments. Now, the Conway has a choice of 2 guns that are both somewhat equal. Now, the Conway has a choice of 2 guns, both up somewhat fine. Obviously, they work. I choose the HESH gun. It's more fun. In terms of the fun, it's very fun. In terms of the rating, it's a 6. Get this shit out of my face. Now, the Type 71 is very similar to the M46 Patton. Now, I don't actually remember what rating I gave to the M46 Patton, but it'll get the same. The Type 68 is stuck between the very well-armored, shit-gunned Type 71 and the also well-armored, very good-gunned Chi-Se. This thing doesn't really have both of them to the degree that the other two have. And again, you have a case of the T9s, the wonky one, only 2,200 DPM, which is not that good, especially for a 400 alpha damage gun, for a 460, even for a 440, that's still fine. But with that low DPM, you want to have some more alpha damage. This thing, unfortunately, doesn't. Use the 9 degrees of gun depression, definitely recommend it. Mobility is, again, not amazing. So I would still give it a 7. It's relatively new. It can still surprise with that. However, in a year or two, it will definitely fall down the ranks. I don't think I've ever played this vehicle, but from the stats that I can see, it looks like a very solid average tank destroyer, 560 alpha damage. If it plays like the tier 10, it'll be a 6.5, 7. Now we get to the T-54 again, with this time a 122mm gun. So the hull and the mobility is very similar. However, the gun does change. We get to up to 400 alpha damage right here. And we also have the 121 as a tier 10, which is an absolutely beautiful vehicle. So I would give this one a 6 out of 10. This one, however, is a 2. Now, it's not really great. It's like the IS-8, really, just in Chinese, given that the Chinese simply just copied all the Soviet technology. And as we can see at the moment, it was a mistake. So not great. However, it does have the good penetration. It works. Only 5 degrees. No armor in the hull or anything. Obviously, you have the turret armor, but if you have turret armor but no gun depression, what is it going to help you? Not much. If we fill an Object 704 with very much excellent Asian cuisine, we get to the 111 GFT. It works the exact same, but it's a bit bigger. 5.5 out of 10. The batch at AP, it'll do for the time that you play it till you get to the batch at tier 10 and you experience how it should work. So, no armor, very good mobility, however. Not really that amazing, so I would definitely give this thing a 4, just because it's just the Vickers CR exists, and this is very much a disappointment. Now, the MX prototype does have the turret armor, does have the gun depression, however, it does not have the penetration and does lack a bit of DPM. Let's compare it to, let's say, a Leopard PTA. So, you have a lot of trade-offs here, which is very nice. Tier 9, in general, is a tier that's fairly balanced. You don't have really that much difference between most of the vehicles, which is always nice. So, I would give this thing 7 out of 10. What happens if you have no armor, no gun depression, not good DPM, and yeah, mobility? You get that, and you get a 3. Now, the Foch does have extremely high DPM, like a lot of these tier 9 tanks, Joes. Unlike the SU-122-54, it actually does have some form of armor. However, only 6 degrees of gun depression, not really that good turn limits, and a mobility that's heavy tank-like. It's about fine enough, and it gets a 5 from me. Standard B doesn't really have a lot of DPM, but it's an auto-reloader, so it really depends on the player here. Basically, if you play this as a bad player, it's a 2 out of 10. Or if you play this as a very good player, you go up to 7 or 8. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 and be done with it. And the same is true for the Skoda T50. Gotta get a lot of skill to get this working, but when you do get it working, it is beautiful. So again, I will give this a 6 out of 10, like most of them at this point. Here's the thing. If two tanks are vastly different, but they basically perform the same, they get the same rating. The 50 TEP is a great tank to get if you're starting the game, so I would give the 50 TEP is a great tank if you're starting the game, just like the E75 as well. It's a Polish E75, really. It'll get an 8 out of 10, and 8.5 maybe even. It doesn't have the DPM, but it does have the alpha damage right there. 8 degrees of depression, very solid, very strong armor as well, and okay mobility, and that'll make it for a very easy, very hard to beat. Would you want a tank that has bad mobility, bad armor, and a bad gun? That's the ML, and that's a 1. And the 50 TP prototype is basically the regular 50 TP with its stilettos removed. That'll get the same rating, but it's gonna get 7.5 because it doesn't have a big head. And then the 3 that I don't actually have on my main account, that is the A Phase 1, the Object, and the TFA. Now, the A Phase 1 is as unobtainable as a League of Legends player getting a girlfriend. So, doesn't matter. Now, this one's pretty good if it wouldn't have been sold for ridiculous prices. So, you know, it's a 7.5, 8. However, the price does not make it worth it at all. I don't even know what to say about this thing. I mean, just don't. 3. Like, come on. It's worse than a T54. Why would you spend money on it? Now, that is it. Hope you enjoyed. Remember, this is more for comedic value than actual recommendation, right? Like, there is a lot of factors involved here. Like the stats, like the performance, like even the player perception. Hope you enjoyed. Don't take it too seriously. And thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.